Get ready for truth and common sense. Join the Framers View on Rumble.com to be part of the chat. Be sure to click join and follow to help keep the Framer on the air. Watch the replay on theframersview.com or rumble.com.
Welcome. It is Wednesday, the 29th of January, 2025. Can you imagine that? Of course you can, because you're intelligent, because you're watching the show. On with the show, this is it. That's what they say. And welcome, we're right back on track. I'm so excited for America and the fact that we're on track. There's a reason for that. There is a reason. And that reason happens to be that, Trump's in charge. So, man, do me a favor. Click on follow, click on like. That will help me a whole bunch and to keep the show going. So I appreciate you doing that. Appreciate you being here. Wow, I've been gone for a little bit. I apologize for that, but sometimes things just, have to get taken care of. And I don't have 7 different guest hosts to cover my show when I got to be gone. So that's just the way it is. Okay, so while I'm happy to be back, I'm also happy that there's just movement. Some of it, we could say, hey, look, Trump's doing this and it's illegal or it's unconstitutional or you can't do this, you can't do that. And then you research and study and you find out, I guess you can. You can do this. And here's why these things happened or that thing happened. And people don't bother researching. That's why I do my show. I do research. I'm going to talk a little bit about one of the things that I'm doing research on that continues, that I think it's not maybe earth-shattering, but it could be a real problem. And why did it ever happen in the first place? You'll find out about that as we go along. Hey, Jon Stewart, comedian, definitely not a conservative, but it does have a way of, let's call it, bringing the truth to the bottom, from the bottom to the top of the pot. And we got a video on that. That's going to be fun. Also, the liberal press tells a story of what they think, but it's not the story. And it's just not. And MSNBC, the memo didn't go out to all of these press people. And what I mean by that is that the Trump one, they may not know that. They say they know it, but they haven't really accepted that. And they worry about the fact that their world is going to end. That's what it really boils down to. They worry that their nonsense is going to end. Speaking of nonsense, just before I went on the show, I saw on the news that Jim Acosta, who accosted Trump and all of the people that were the press secretaries in Trump's first administration, that he just pounded on them forever. And he has been a thorn, would be one way to say it. He clearly hates Trump. I mean, when we talk about hate, we're talking about a guy, I think there's a combination of hate and fear, because he knows these guys aren't stupid. They are stupid, but they're not. And to explain that, what I mean by that is they can accept the fact that these things are happening, but they can't let it come out. They can't talk about it, because if they do, their whole story is gone. That's where everything lies right now. The problem of the things that are said, the things that people say, cannot continue to be said, or they're going to lose their shows. MSNBC and CNN has already experienced that by the hundreds of thousands of viewers that they've lost. Because even liberal people, and I'm not talking about the complete left wackos, are starting to see things with Trump when the press is saying, he's done this and this is bad and that's bad, and they go, no, that's not bad. Or they say, I know better than that. Or when we're now looking at the border, and the border has got less people coming across the border before we've even built a wall. And why is that? It's because they kind of know it's a wasted term. Holman said it best, or somebody did this weekend. They said they spend months walking, from Guatemala, from southern Mexico, from wherever, to get up to the border. And it's going to take them 7 hours to go back where they are because we're going to put them on a plane and fly them back. And then, Rachel Maddow talks about how we're wasting money with these great big jets, these C-130s and all of these jets that are being flown to take these people back to these countries. And we don't need a big plane like that. Well, we kind of do. Because it's much easier to handcuff them to the plane. They're not walking around and they're not going to be able to get up and go. As opposed to a commercial airline, they don't have the facilities or the equipment to take these people who are dangerous. We'll talk about that also during the show. And the hate, the sadness, it's really amazing. I got a story about the FCC that's fascinating. I didn't even really keep track of. I knew it had been going on, but the new guy that's coming in, Brendan Carr, has made some statements that's interesting. What's going on in the Panama Canal? I mentioned something we're going to talk about that may not be earth-shattering, but it could be, and we're going to talk about that. China's sticking their nose in so much stuff, including the Panama Canal, but there's more to it than that. And parents don't know what to do with their kids. Oh, by the way, just a news flash, how they do. News flash. Well, here's the news flash that we have now. There's only two genders. Uno, dos, two, one. Girl and boy. Your birth certificate will say that. I know they're trying to change that so they can say non-binary, but the kid gets to choose on that, I think. And hey, if you want to be gay, if you want to be a trans, if you want to be whatever you want to be, go for it. But you don't have to run up and down the streets announcing it. You just don't have to do that. And this whole process of kids in school and the girls that are in their locker rooms and the trans boys, which I would love to know the percentage of those trans boys that want to say they're trans to get into the girls' bathrooms. I don't know. I honestly don't know. There's no study on that I've seen. Maybe we should spend $1 trillion on that. But my point is that we really don't know. We don't. But we do know this. Our daughters should not be subjected to boys in the locker room, just hanging around. Take that in two different ways. But we can't have this happening. And Trump's trying to make a difference on that. And God bless him for doing that. But first, speaking of things that Trump's trying to stop, the whole DEI and CRT and all of that crazy stuff. I saw a story this weekend that it hurts my head. So you've got two finite groups that are putting people into space. The private sector and the government, which is NASA, which I've been a huge supporter of NASA for years. My dad worked for NASA. He was a rocket scientist. But the point is that NASA are the ones that got us into space, got us to go around the Earth. When I was a kid, when John Glenn and Shepard, I forget his first name, went around the globe on the first flights, manned flights. I mean, the school stopped, and they had a TV, which we thought was huge. I think it was about, yay big. And they put it in a big room where people could go in. We went in, and we watched that occur. That, here's John Glenn or Shepard. Shepard really didn't go into space. He was in the outer limits before he went out into space. John Glenn did 3 orbits around the Earth. That was a big deal. And all of that occurred by NASA. The problem is, and I've talked about this so many times, you get a time where the government becomes so big, it becomes onerous. It gets so out of control with rules and regulations, which slow everything down. When Kennedy said in 1960, I think it was 62, or maybe it was earlier than that, when he said, hey, we're going to put a man on the moon. And that started NASA going from just going into space to heading towards the moon. He said he wanted to do that before 1960, whatever it was, 4 or 5, or the end of his term, which sadly, his end of term was really quick. But the point I'm getting here is that the government just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and NASA was a good example of that. Now you've got two guys that are doing the same thing, Bezos and Musk. And they've got their own little projects. I call little. I can't even imagine how they put that together. But the point is, they've shot rockets into the space. Musk is the one that's going to go up to the space station and rescue the two guys, the guy and the girl, that were supposed to be back here a long time ago. But they had a problem with their space capsule. Couldn't come back home. But the private sector will do that. And the private sector is very different. They work on what's called something that most people don't understand. It's called a balanced budget. Whoa, what an idea. And so they have to operate where there's enough profit to be able to put things up into space, and in Elon Musk's case, bring it back and land it in a cup holder where they had shipped it out. If you haven't seen that, just let me know. I'll show it someday again. If you've never seen that, you can Google it. Musk's spaceship returning or something like that. And it'll show. You'll see it. NASA can't do that. You're not going to see it happen with Bezos guys. No other country can do that. But Musk can, and his team. And it's because they're unburdened by the past. That just came to me as I was about to say that. But they are. In this case, they are unburdened by all of the legacy expenses, all of the legacy operations, all of the regulations. It's just fascinating. If you've ever been to the NASA Space Center at Cape Canaveral, and you've walked in, there's one building you walk into, there's a Saturn V rocket, and it's not standing up, it's horizontal, and it's in this big room. And you look at the jets, there's three, if I remember right, there's three of them, that you could literally stand inside of the cones of that. How did we do that? How did we become that capable? Well, we became capable like that the same as when we made the atom bomb. The same as we've done with all of the things that we've done in military against war criminals and war crime and war fighting with enemies. And all of this stuff is created. But now, because government has become so onerous, as I said before, we have a new situation. We have a situation where the private sector can do a lot of that work. They're going to make money. They're supposed to. Of course, everybody's against that. But we're going to make money, and they're going to be able to succeed where the government cannot. And that's the thing that we have to think about. When we have these small companies, when you say small companies, it's not like some of my companies that were small. I had a company that was very large, and we did enormous business. But most of my businesses have been small, not hundreds and hundreds or thousands and thousands of employees. They were more in the consulting sector and that type of thing. But when you're talking about putting people into space, when you're talking about creating something from scratch, that private sector doing that with funding that's coming from the government will get done way faster, and Trump will pull away the regulations. And those are the things that make a difference. So that's what we can look forward to. And I said that we're on the right track. The Democrats just can't accept it. And that's really true. It is so amazingly true in the world of presidential operations. A lot of these guys go in and they just get sucked into them being taken care of, and they're getting go flights on Air Force One and they don't get anything done. Trump's already been there, done that. He's here to get a job done, and he will. So I want to share with you a lot of things today that we'll talk about that really are important. And I hope you'll bear with me as I read some things that I want you to hear about, and I show you some videos that are really important. So Framers View is on track too. First thing, I mentioned Jon Stewart, and there's purging going on. And he makes fun of these idiots from the liberal press and what they're saying. Watch this.
Friday night purge, a chilling purge.
The purge. Ah! Trump has ushered in the purge. What is this purge about exactly?
Trump fired at least 17 inspectors general.
No! That only leaves no one knows how many now. What Trump did violated the law. He can't just fire these people.
Title V, Section 403 of the U.S. Code, federal law, an inspector general may be removed by the president.
So what's the purge? What's the map? Why do I have an axe?
There is a specific law that requires notice, 30 days, and a statement of reasons, substantive and detailed rationale.
So that's what we're upset about? No! You can do it, but not in that font. That's Hitler's font. First law of Trumpodynamics. Every action is met with a very not equal overreaction. For some reason, we have given presidents the power of a king. And then we say, oh, by the way, like, with that power, you're not going to get all like kingly and on us, right? To put that in constitutional terms, if I could, don't hate the player, hate the founding father.
You don't even have to hate the founding fathers. The fact is that, yeah, they did make these rules, and I'm not sure founding fathers actually did that piece. I don't know if there was an amendment or not. I don't remember. Point is that, yeah, the framers did some things that people don't like. So make an amendment. Pretty simple. Genesee Boy says, if you dream it, Musk can make it. Boy, that's so true. You know, I'll never probably own an electric vehicle. Not probably. I'm not going to own an electric vehicle. I don't need to have a whole bunch of batteries getting hot in my garage and burning my house down, which I have seen happen, by the way, or out on the highway. But the point is that some people want to own them, and he created something that people want. That's what the private sector does. But then when you get a president that comes along and says, hey, you have to buy these, and here's $7,500 if you buy it. Oh, and that, by the way, all the taxpayers are paying that because the government doesn't have money. They have your money. That's what I keep saying to you, and I hope you understand, because we are never going to get past this if people don't start putting their hands up and saying, excuse me, you're spending my money, and I'm not happy. That's what Doge is for, or as I call, doggy. The doggies sniffing out the expenses. So this video that you just saw was really fascinating, but it also exemplifies just exactly what's happening with the press. That they're saying things and accusing things that are not true. It drives me nuts. Channel 9, the local news here, the stories they tell every night makes me want to throw a hamburger at my TV. But I like the hamburger more than throwing it. What can I tell you? So that's the start of the show. People that are losing it, the press that doesn't get it or doesn't want to admit it, and it goes on from there. So in the process of Trump coming into office and him naming his cabinet, his secretaries, the people that are going to work with him and for us, everybody that's in politics work for us. Okay? You get that, right? So every one of them, the board of directors are the people that vote. And if we don't like what they said, if we don't like what they do, we have an election. And that election allows us to be able to turn off that problem by voting them out. Although some people don't know what the truth is, and that's why Framers View is here. Fair enough? So one of the things that happened the other day was that Trump paused federal spending. He paused it. Federal spending. Federal spending. We're going to see what that story is about here in a moment. But you can conflate what was said with what you want to be heard and make it sound like the truth. And therein lies the problem that I talk about with the press all the time. You know, sometimes there's stories. I've got stories here on my desk that are not, you could tell this story a bazillion different ways. But why don't we just tell the truth? Everybody says, well, Walter Cronkite told the truth. Really? There was nobody out there that was going to tell any other story. CBS and NBC was the same as ABC or whatever. I think Walter Cronkite was on CBS, if I remember right. Channel, what was it? I think Channel 8 or 6 where we were. It was UHF. Switching the channels on the TV before remotes. Yeah, I'm that old, I know. But my point is that so the story becomes different than what it really is. It's a story. It's not the story. So Stephen Miller, who works for Trump, was on CNN with Jake Tapper. Here's what happened.
A number of government-funded organizations, so these are organizations like Meals on Wheels, right? Their job, their mission, it's a private organization. They get grants from the federal government. They feed seniors. Meals on Wheels is currently in the dark. They don't know, does this order affect us? Does this mean we're not going to have any more funding coming in? They feed like 2 million seniors. So I'm just wondering, first of all, why a pause? An investigation, sure, I get that. Auditing, sure. Why a pause? And
well,
what about?
Well, Jake, once you spend money, you can't get it back. So, in other words, if you don't put federal programs under review that are wasteful or harmful to taxpayers, and then people hit send, you wouldn't believe the payments we've had to pause over the last few days with bureaucrats trying to funnel money out of the door, funnel money to the World Health Organization, funnel money to resettlement organizations, funnel money to foreign countries. And so, of course, you have to put a pause on these discretionary grants of funding and have a political review process. In other words, there are people that are accountable to the taxpayer to review. It does not include, the review process does not include any public benefit program.
So they don't want to, and you're going to see here in a second, they don't want the truth to come out on that. They want to just accuse the Trump administration for cutting off all funding. But it isn't that way. That isn't what it's doing. And more importantly, you'll see here in a minute, they've talked about the fact that you can't just be doling out this money without any oversight. Now, there's two sides to that story, and I'll tell you that. Side number one is you can't just keep spending money without any oversight. The other part is that there's grants and things that have been done in the past, Doge, looking at these kind of things that are expenditures that make no sense whatsoever. Why do we keep giving money to countries that hate us? Do you really think that by us giving them money that they'll like us more? No, they'll be more powerful so they can do more bad to us. That's what happens. So this whole Meals on Wheels, that's a program that's a private, not federal business. Meals on Wheels. Now, watching TV last night, they were talking, again on Channel 9, about how they couldn't download what they needed to take for the day, $1.5 million. This is a hospital here in Denver. And they had to take $1.5 million that day, and they couldn't take it. Well, that's because the portal was shut down. Whether it was shut down or it broke, we don't know yet. We don't know the whole story on that. The point is that we're keeping people from being able to do research. That's a scare tactic, first of all. Secondly, what are they doing? What are they researching? How are they doing this? Who is doing it? Where's the money going? What amount of money is this? And is this a reasonable amount of money for it? There's no oversight. That's what I keep saying about this. It isn't about whether people should get money. You know, perfect example is where I come from in the fire service, being a former firefighter. I retired a couple of years ago. Well, it's about a year and a quarter now. Retired. And the point is that we needed grants. We needed grants from the government or from the state or federal to be able to have equipment or different things that are needed, and you don't have enough budget to be able to do that in your department. And I get that. And that is a purpose that's important for fire departments, for police, whatever. And there's grants for a lot of things. The problem is that when a politician gets involved, and let's say that politician is, he's a chemical, he gets money from a chemical company. Won't name any companies. But they get money from the chemical company. And that money is important to him for his campaign. So when somebody's trying to stop chemicals that are bad for us, reference RFK that right now is being questioned in his confirmation hearings, and he doesn't want that company to be affected. He's got to protect that company so he gets his money. Well, guess what happens? He causes a problem for the person that's trying to get confirmed to protect the person that gave him money so that he can stay in politics. And I won't get into what my opinion is on how we need to keep money out of the politics and shorten these elections. We'll do that another day. So Tapper continues with Stephen Miller. Watch this.
Jake, we have to get control over this government. You understand this point about NGOs, non-governmental organizations. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden gave just one NGO responsible for resettling illegal aliens $3 billion, with a B, $3 billion. President Trump, when he said drain the swamp, he meant it. And yes, so those kinds of spending programs are going to be put under review.
Okay. I don't think anybody's taking issue with if you find money that is being dispersed in an inappropriate way, halting it. I think what the confusion is this seemed to a lot of groups and a lot of states, Republicans, Democrats, independents, like a very sweeping order, and there is confusion. I just want to make sure I understand. So anybody out there that provides school lunches, anybody out there?
Yeah, there's zero impact on public benefit programs, full stop, as OMB has made clear. And I want to really drill down on this, Jake, because it's so important. Mm-hmm. There's 2 million employees in the federal government. Overwhelmingly, the career federal service in this country is far left wing. I don't
know that to be a fact.
Well, I'll give you a great example. We looked at USAID as an example.
That's
98% of the workforce either donated to Kamala Harris or another left-wing candidate, just as an example.
Okay, but let me just an entire workforce is having a
wait, whoa! Did you just say that saying someone voted for Kamala Harris is demonizing them?
No.
So according
your suggestion is that there's a bias.
No, but you used the word demonizing. You just said that I'm demonizing somebody by saying they voted for Kamala Harris.
you know, Trump, you don't want to try to push around. Stephen Miller is another great example of that. He is amazing. First of all, his knowledge is over the top, and his recall. There's a difference between knowledge and recall. His recall and his way to be able to form a piece of information and bring it to people is phenomenal. And Jake Tapper, here's how it works in a CNN, MSNBC, ABC, Fox. It doesn't matter what it is. They don't prepare. I prepare my show. I know everything I'm going to say. I know everything I'm going to talk about before the show ever starts. These people that are like, I watch Fox a lot, obviously. These people that do 2 or 3 shows in a day, they can't be doing all that preparation. They read what they see. They talk about what they hear, but do they know what the real story is at the last moment? And that's what I really work at trying to do. But I only do 1 hour a day. If you do a 3-hour show, the massive amount of work that's involved, you have to have people to help you put that together. I'd like to have help just for 1 hour. But my point is that Jake Tapper doesn't spend a lot of time making sure what he's going to say is true. And therein lies the problem. They say things. He said, well, people are worried. They're afraid. They don't know. Well, it's because you're saying that this money's being taken away from people, from governments. People are going to starve. People are going to die. People are going to, crash into walls. People are going to drive into light poles. Come on. Come on, man. That's where we are today. They keep saying these things, and it just can't continue. So Trump's going to try to change that. I'm going to talk about a story with the FCC talking about that very thing. But first, I want to get into something. If you don't know who Nicole Wallace is, she's with MSNBC. She reminds me of a person I would never want to be around for more than about a half a minute if I never even knew this person. If I was for a half a minute around, I would want to just turn around and walk away. The whining sound, the talk of things that don't make any sense is just fascinating. How stupid. So Nicole Wallace has to talk about, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, and Kash Patel. So first we see all of the things that they say that we're going to have a problem with. Watch this.
With regards to U.S. and NATO, just like we would not want Russia to come in and start putting their tanks and missiles on our borders, either with Mexico or elsewhere, Russia says, hey, I don't want U.S. and NATO coming and making their military outposts on our borders within Ukraine.
There's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately.
I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening it the next day as a museum of the deep state.
Those are people who wouldn't get anywhere near a normal cabinet for any normal Democrat or Republican. But, ladies and gentlemen, meet the most likely future director of national intelligence, future secretary of health and human services, and future director of the FBI. And that was just a glimpse. There's so much more where that came from in terms of their controversial and
Okay, disqualifying statements. The statements that are being made, the statements that have been made, are really, Kash Patel saying he'd make it a museum. Tulsi Gabbard talking about Putin not wanting people staged at his border. She's making a point that, she could probably picked another location, but it was comparing to why we have a border and we don't want people coming into our country. Well, we should have a border. We should correct that. But this is an example of they take that and they manipulate it. Just because Tulsi Gabbard said Putin wouldn't like it when people put forces up against his border or come in across his border. He wouldn't like that. And she says, well, let's see if Putin likes her. Well, okay. First of all, the answer to that is no, probably not. But, it's not just, she isn't a supporter of Russia. She's a supporter of borders, but they've turned it around. So Nicole Wallace, God bless her, she's got a guy that loves to whine, and the things he says is amazing. So watch this.
This is a story about what a joke the Republicans have turned themselves into. And Republicans don't get to tell journalists like Julie that they care about national security. Ask Vladimir Putin what he thinks of Tulsi Gabbard. You don't even need to take a domestic critic of Tulsi Gabbard. But the fact that these guys are going to put on suits and trot to conferences and act like they care about security is rendered a joke if they confirm these folks.
It's a complete joke, and the whole cabinet selections have been clownish. Like, you can put ideology aside even for a second. We can talk about Tulsi and kind of a separate box. Like Hegseth and Kash Patel and RFK Jr., just from a resume standpoint, are preposterous choices to lead the agencies that they've been set to lead. They don't have the experience to do this. They are hostile to the actions that the agencies are supposed to take to safeguard the country. In the instance of Kash Patel, this has been a person that has just been as transparent as you can be.
Okay. For them to make any comment about unqualified and wrong for the country and all that stuff, those are the people, ladies and germs, those are the people that supported, yes, Joe Biden to be in the White House. Think about that. The guy that doesn't know where he is, was basically in the West Wing most of the time, and his wife was running the country, that is, can't form a sentence, can't keep from falling up steps, doesn't have a clue what's going on, is lost on stage, mumbles all the way through everything. That isn't a qualified person. But if anybody like Tulsi Gabbard comes along, who, by the way, she's clearly has a clearance for security already, because you don't get into a fighter jet without having some credentials. You don't fight for our country without having training and being vetted. That's the way it works. But Nicole Wallace, God bless her, she's got all the answers. Just ask her. And, and this dude, that he's on with her all the time, and he just yaps and yaps and says things that just doesn't make any sense. RFK, I don't know if I probably would not vote for him for president. But that isn't the point. The point is that this is a guy who cares about children and the health of our country and the food that's being given to people in this country. And he's being grilled right now in the Senate hearings, and we'll see what happens. So the whole thing with Trump and getting the job done is a scary thing for a lot of people, clearly. They're afraid because they know that their little game is getting opened up to the public to see what's happened. And part of it is this whole thing of getting people out of this country who don't belong here. For anybody to say, well, they're taking the criminals now, but they're going to take the undocumented. Yeah. If you're undocumented, that means you're illegal. Saying you're undocumented is a different story. And I would like to share with you what that really means, because this whole thing with the undocumented, a guy brought up a great point. If you're driving down the road and you're speeding and you pass somebody going 90 miles an hour on a 75 mile an hour road. The cop sees it, cop catches him, pulls him over, or her, and says, need your driver's license, your insurance and registration. Oh, shoot, I don't have my wallet with me. That's undocumented. That is totally different from illegal. Now, the cop's going to say, well, what are you doing on the road then? Well, I forgot my wallet. They might get a warning, could get a ticket. There's all kinds of things that could happen. But the point is that this event could occur, and could occur many, many times every day. But people who come across the border illegally, according to our laws, are illegal. They've committed a crime. Is that tough to understand? I don't think so. So every single person that's here that hasn't got a green card and haven't gone through the processes, are not going for their citizenship, are not learning how to speak English, they're illegal. There are people that are here that deserve to be here. There are ways to come through the border, through the checkpoints, claim whatever you want to claim and come in to the country. And we need to be able to keep track of you. The rest of you, you got to go. So you're undocumented, but watch this video. This is fascinating.
You guys to take a look at this video that we saw just this morning from the DEA, ATF, and Homeland Security investigators out of the Rocky Mountain Division in Colorado. There you can see a raid that was conducted this morning. They say that they were targeting a Venezuelan gang, and they were able to seize cash weapons, and actually made an arrest of, quote, 50 illegal aliens right there. Alex?
Yep, we call them undocumented.
Did you catch that? So she has to correct the fact that they call them undocumented. You can call them bunny rabbits if you want. Call them a carrot. Call them, I don't know, a red pepper. They're illegal. Plain and simple. And I've said over and over again, you go to any horse barn in the United States, you go to a lot of the hotels and motels in this country. A lot of them are Mexicans, Guatemalans, people from South America who were dying in their countries because they didn't have enough money to survive. And now they're here in the U.S. working hard and doing things that, quite frankly, most of the people in America are too spoiled to do. Just go work at a barn someday, a horse barn, mucking stalls. Mucking means cleaning out horse poop and piss in the stalls, all of them. It's heavy, it's dirty, it's hard. And they do it, and they do it really well. So I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with somebody coming up to the check-in point and declaring themselves and why they're here. I have no problem with that whatsoever. It's the ones that go across the border that don't belong here. Therein lies the problem. That is the problem that we have every day. So when we get to a point where we understand that as a country, and it's still going on, people will start pushing back. That's all I'm saying. But there's people that don't understand this. They don't understand what really is going on. They think, oh my God, the families are being separated. They're being sent back. They don't know what's going to happen to them. They're being put on planes. They don't know what's going to be done to them. Well, then you get the popular people in America that are just crazy. Watch this.
All my people are getting attacked. The children. I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do.
Again, there's the guy. He knows what to do. All of a sudden, I'm speechless. Why would anybody get in front of a camera and start crying like that? It's a show. They don't know what to do. They know they're illegal. The parents brought them in if they came in with their parents. Some of these people, sadly, came in with people they didn't even know. And we've got 300,000 children that nobody knows where they are. Think about that. You don't even know where they are? And we're taking these bad people and putting them on planes and flying them back. And Rachel Maddow has a problem with that. Well, they don't have a problem in Chicago because, well, they're smarter than everybody else, and they know what's going on, and they understand that you can't just come in and get these illegals out of Chicago. But there's a guy that pointed it out very well. And, you know, Bernie Moreno is a former car dealer, big guy, big operation. And he's brilliant. And watch this, and we'll talk about it.
I think it's amazing. I mean, President Trump knows the urgency that we need to get us safety and security back to our cities. Look, these criminal aliens should never have been allowed to be in this country in the first place. Joe Biden put this country in jeopardy for 4 years, and President Trump's going to clean it up really fast. This should be an American issue. Like, we want legal immigrants to come here safely, securely, in a way that benefits this country, not by breaking into this country, paying drug cartel members who rape them and beat them along the journey. It's the most disgusting way to welcome migrants to this country, especially fake asylum claims. We have a bill that's going to stop that. Look, if you're a true refugee, we're going to have a safe process for you to come to this country. If you're an economic migrant, you got to wait in line. You can't use asylum as a way to skip in line ahead of millions of people. It's just fundamentally unfair. And I think a lot of Democrats will come on board with my bill. My message to the mayors of those cities is, why don't you do this for a change? Why don't you actually advocate for the American citizens that live in your communities, help them with better schools, better housing, and better security, rather than protecting criminal illegals that shouldn't even be in this country in the first place? And I think when the voters of those cities see what these mayors are doing, they're going to throw them out. And look, the mayor of Chicago is probably the worst mayor in American history.
He says it like it is, and he's right. You know, we just this idea that people call it undocumented, it's just to water down what they are. And all of those people, by the way, before Trump got in office, back in the George W. Bush days and the Bill Clinton days, they called them illegals. Bill Clinton said they need to go. Bill Clinton said we can't let these people in. Obama said we can't let these people in. But now it's not PC. That's where the problem lies. And the press keeps pushing it along. It's stupid. Just stupid. So I told you that I'm going to talk about some things that could really be a problem. And one of those is Panama Canal. I want to show this video with Marsha Blackburn first, and then we'll talk about this.
Yes, indeed. When you visit the Panama Canal, as I have a couple of different times, and look at the free trade zones that are there on that, and also talk with a lot of the Americans who have retired in Panama or who are working there, what you realize is there is the threat to this canal and the working of the canal by some Chinese companies that are involved in different areas around this canal. Also, what we've become aware of is that as the Chinese related companies, and by the way, remember the Chinese Communist Party is going to have a board seat, and they're going to have insight into every one of these companies, that the U.S. companies are being charged more in these fees. These fees are not given on an objective basis. It seems to be very subjective.
So the Panama Canal to me, is a big issue. And here's why. When you look at what the Panama Canal represents, it represents a way to get to South and North America without having to go massive days longer with shipping. And of course, the U.S. uses the biggest share of this. But the Panama Canal, I've been studying about the Panama Canal here recently, reading about it, the history. It took 23 years to build the Panama Canal. Now, they weren't working the whole time because, number one, the French started it, and then they got some other people involved, and they got different operations people, and they had to have equipment built, and then people started to die from disease malaria was one of the biggest ones. And thousands of people died from many countries, including the United States. But once again, the United States came in and they made the difference. And when I say made the difference, they knew how to get it done. I want to show you this picture as we talk about this, because this is important. So with this picture here, if you can see this okay, this is the Panama Canal where you see the red line that goes through and goes up to the top. Panama City is way down here. And I brought this up here to show you it's 51 miles. This lake here, which is called Gatun, I think it's called, that lake feeds the levees, where they lock the canal to fill it up, to then bring the ship in to another section, and they keep going because they have to raise it to get it through that canal to be deep enough. And it's fascinating what they did and what they had to do. And the people that were smart enough, which is amazing in itself, to figure out how to do that. And then, do it yourself. Go take a look at Wikipedia. There's tons of photos of what they did and how they did it. And the fact it got done is stunning to me. Totally stunning. That they actually managed to get this taken care of. In those days, 1886, I think it was, to 1907 or something, that they did this. And they got it done. Wow. Now the worry is that the southern and the northern part of the Panama Canal, because when you come across and you come to Panama City, you're going north up through Panama, and you're coming out on the other side in the Gulf of America. I think that's what it's called. And so they need to be able to get through there. It saves days and days of going around South America. It doesn't make any sense when you can just go through there. People died. And then Jimmy Carter gave it away for $1. All the people that died doing this, not just Americans. And he just gave it away. Okay. He built lots of houses afterwards. The guy was unqualified. He proved that. It isn't just a statement. They're saying, our buddy Pete Hegseth is not qualified. He's unqualified for the job. Well, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't think so. But China, on the south and the north side of that canal, is being managed by China. There's Chinese people operating that and controlling that. What if they decide to shut that off? Think about that. What if they decide to make it harder for America, including warships, to get through? Now, some of them can't get through there. I can't imagine an aircraft carrier can get through the Panama Canal. There's some statistics on that, but the length, I think, would be too long for those. Point is that these problems can be a real catch for us if China decides to get ugly. They're already ugly, but if they decide to really push it. So look at this story, because there's more to it than just China's on the top and bottom side of the Panama Canal. It's the classrooms in the United States. Look at this. China may be in the Panama Canal, but they are already in America's classrooms. From closing our schools during pandemic, to the debate over CRT, which Trump's getting rid of, to the ensuing battle over gender ideology, our political divide has turned the playground into a battlefield. But due to ideological impositions and curriculums that put indoctrination over education, this war is justified. Meaning, this is not right what's happening in our schools. So Last year, it came to light that China is funding America's public schools to the tune of $17 million. It has been revealed by this report that's been done. The report by Parents Defending Education states that the close coordination between Chinese government and U.S. schools establish Confucius classrooms has historically included 143 school districts in 34 states and Washington, D.C. And some of them are in states that aren't even liberal. This is just happening and nobody's doing anything about it. Nobody's stopping this. And that picture that I showed you of the Panama Canal, keeping in mind that the south and the north side of that is literally controlled by the Chinese. Why? Now they say, well, America can't take it back. Yeah, they can. From everything I can see, and I'm not a lawyer, I do play one on Rumble, but the fact is that we can take it back. And why wouldn't we? We're the ones, 70% of everything goes through there is the United States anyway. And that is it. I should have shown that video, or that video, but that picture. There's a section that was taken that's Panama Canal District. And it's not Panama, it's separated. It's an entity of itself. And it could be taken over by America. We'll see what happens with that. But it'll be interesting to see for sure. So, final little story. You know, there are people, actually I want to do two things. I'm going to skip one story and do it tomorrow. Just, there's too much. There's so much to share. But what I wanted to talk about was the fact that kids are becoming different than they were. They're seeing the nonsense. I talked about this before the election. I talked about the fact that these young kids are becoming Republicans, are becoming believers in Trump. Well, here's a story. Let me read this first before I show this. So I have it here on my famous paper that I use from the Office Depot guys. In a recent report by New York Times, it was revealed that a growing number of liberal parents are finding themselves at odds with their sons over their support of President Donald J. Trump. Reports highlight the struggle these parents face in reconciling their own political beliefs with those of their offspring. Maybe the parents ought to stop and say, wow, maybe my kid knows more. So here's a story. Alex Baer, she's a 59-year-old Democrat from Portland, Oregon. She was taken aback when she discovered her son, a 20-year-old, Eli, had cast his inaugural presidential vote for Trump. Oh no. Oh no. The report details how Baer's reaction to her son's political leanings has strained their relationship. Well, of course it has, because Democrats cannot allow anybody to think anything different. When Eli brought a Make America Great Again hat home from college this summer, she threw it in the corner of his bedroom. They argued about guns, immigration, and abortion, struggling to do so without permanently damaging a relationship. Well, let's see. Guns, immigration, and abortion. Guns in the Constitution, immigration is illegal if you don't come through the border properly, and abortion is by state. Okay? So they extended their digital communication problems in heated exchanges and Trump's legal battles. They always have to bring that up. Trump's a criminal, convicted. He's a bad man. She worries about the influence of conservative viewpoints on her son. Get a load of this, through social media platforms like Instagram and YouTube. Okay, final thing. Plenty see their sons embrace Mr. Trump as an expected act of rebellion or a choice made by an independent adult, young adult that should respect, Holderman wrote. For others, it has felt like a painful rejection of the values they have tried to instill in their children, which means they're not thinking like we do, and so we're angry. That's what it is. It is just plain and simple. That is what it is. So take a look at this with a kid, again, talking about how the Dems are going to hurt you when they talk about there's only 2 genders.
That we definitely have a bit of a boost.
In 2023, Liam Morrison got sent home from his middle school accused of offending LGBTQ students for wearing a t-shirt saying there are only 2 genders. His attorneys say it's a freedom of speech issue. Liam was expressing his beliefs about gender while the school encouraged students to celebrate Pride Week the same way.
My client was punished for simply having that phrase on his shirt in a public school when he was responding to the school's message of a very different perspective on sex.
We reached out to the school for comment but have not heard back. President Trump also signed an executive order requiring the federal government to only recognize 2 sexes. GLAD law says public schools have to provide a safe learning environment, adding, every student has the right to attend public school without fear of bullying and harassment, and nothing in the executive order changes that.
What I'm hoping for is that this will be seen as not only just a one-court battle, but also...
Did you catch that? The LGBTQ saying there can't be bullying in the schools, and yet they're bullying him. They don't even get it. This kid has an opinion, the same as somebody has an opinion that instead of being a boy, they're a girl, or vice versa. Why don't they see how ridiculous their statements are? Bullying? They threw this kid out of school because he had a t-shirt on that said there are only 2 genders. If somebody else wants to say there's 42 genders or whatever they come up with, okay. If you want to be a cockroach instead of a person, go ahead. That's it for the show today, man. What a day. What a bunch of information for you. I hope you took notes and you've studied for tomorrow, because we'll be back here tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Time doing this again. And until then, because I do have to go, until then, carry on.
Thanks for your support. Join the Framers View Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern.